Fantastic.
All right. Rest and be thankful. Those are the words of William Wordsworth. And Anne Lamott said, almost everything will work out again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. And Barry Hilton says, to be the best, you must take a rest. Hi, Barry.
Hi, how are you?
Well, and you, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. It's lekker. Nice to talk. I love talking, so what heck.
All right. So, my guest today, I'm very pleased to welcome Barry Hilton. So, very briefly, Barry Hilton, I'm sure every South African knows Barry Hilton. Uh, every good comedian knows that timing is everything. And with Barry Hilton, that goes way beyond the punchline. His act is intelligent, observational, impeccably timed, and never crude, sexist, or racist, just enormously funny. With a track record of 40 years in comedy, Barry Hilton has raised the world's laughter level considerably and won over a global fan base. His delightful knack of finding the ludicrous and the humorous turns daily situations on their head to make us laugh at life. His genuinely funny bones, his uncanny ability to gauge a crowd, his firm stance on working clean, and his unflinching work ethic make Barry Hilton an institution that has stood the testament of time and continues to impress as he breaks new ground and makes them laugh all over the world.
Thank you. Wow. Thank
So,
you.
welcome, Barry. Let's just start off by saying, why did you come up with the saying, to be
My
the best,
pleasure.
you must
Oh, to be
make, to be the best, you must take a rest.
I was doing some scuba diving and I was getting burnt out. And I was actually with this a guy I met to become a scuba partner of mine. And he said to me, just as you look tired. And I said, yeah, actually, I'm tired. And then he said those words to me, to be the best, you've got to take a rest. And I thought, wow, those are so simple words, but it's so true. So I cancelled inquiries for a month and I just took a rest and I came back double strong. So when I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed now, um, I'll chat to Sandy, my wife, who does all the bookings and she does all the technical stuff, all that stuff. Or she says to me, Baz, I think maybe you got to take a week off or 10 days or something like that. And I do that all the time. And I firmly believe that, if you can do that, then it gives you a new perspective. You can actually sit back and think, wow, okay, you want to do that. I'm going to try that when I go forward. And then I allow myself, I don't give times. It's like when I'm ready, I'll go. But I found that over the years, I have to take less rest because I'm more relaxed. That makes sense? I can take three or
Absolutely.
4 days and I'm happy. So, like I think in December we switch off. I think I've got gigs coming in until like the 28th or something like that. I think so. But generally, January, it's family time and my kids' time, and that's the way it is. The bank can wait till February. That's what it's about.
Absolutely. We need to have that break. We need to have that rest because that will also help us prevent failures and mistakes.
Yes, yes, very much so. You can actually think, oh, hold on a second, that was, I made a mistake there. I won't do that again. I've done 7,000 plus shows, and I've bombed out a lot of times. Um, a lot of times things have happened, and I'm finding myself that I'm losing my edge, and that before that used to really worry me. It used to really, really worry me. I'm not as good. I'm not going to be as good. I'm not going to do that. And then you'd find that a couple of my shows after that would be okay-ish. So that's when I started doing the rest thing. And what actually happens now when I'm on stage, I write every day, but I don't sit and write paper. I think in my head. Like for instance, I was looking at the American election, and they said that to be an American president, you have to have been born in the USA. But if you look at Donald Trump, it looks like he's born in the Orange Free State. So I write things like that all the time and think, oh, that's cool. I'll put that aside. So then that's how I write my new material all the time. I stop working so hard on the material I have now, and I say, okay, take it easy, then make a plan. And I have failed numerous times. I went to the UK, and basically I was too fast. I tried to be too South African and all that. So that was like almost, and one of the agents in the UK said, I can't book you. No, you can't do that. So I said to the guy, what do I need to do? And he said, well, as a South African, you come across very aggressive. What I do? Then I punched him. No, I'm kidding. So he said to me, you come across very aggressive and you're very fast. Okay. So I went back home, and it only took me 2 days. So I said to him, I tell you what, give me a gig next week and don't pay me. Only pay me if you think I've done the job. Okay. So I went home, and the whole week, I reanalyzed what I was going to say, and I anglicized it, if you will. I talked a bit slower. And what I did was I actually told the people, look, I'm actually from South Africa. So there's a few words. Oh no, my son. Just a second. Are you there?
Yes.
Are you there? There's a few words in South Africa.
Your camera's off, Barry.
I know my son keeps on contacting me. Just give me a second. I'm just trying to get hold of him and get the Zoom back on. And oh my giddy aunt. Sorry, man. Kids, they drive you mad. You know that. There we go. I must just 1 second. I'm going to walk with you quickly here. I'm still here. So I'll talk to you. My son needs the car keys. Just a second, because we drove to Amaris to do some business, and my son goes to school here every now and again. So the long story. I'm almost there. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. And what's amazing is your background isn't changing.
Yeah. Bring it to the corner room when you finish. Okay. All right. That's fantastic. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. It's the way I've set it up. So where were we? So I was in the UK, and then I did exactly that, what the guy told me. So from falling flat on my face, the next show I went there, and the guy was like, now we're talking. And then I did lots of work with this guy, and he got me in some big venues. So there we go. So when you fall down and you think it's the end of the road, it's actually not the end of the road. It's just looking at it at another perspective and say, okay, you're allowed to fail. You're allowed to fail, because anybody that tells you at any time that they've never failed are lying, completely lying. They're lying, because everybody fails. I do a story. I've got a talk I do about mental health, and how's that for failing. I actually had a breakdown, completely had a breakdown, and I ended up in a clinic. But when I talk about it, now in the clinic was the way I had to start again, to come back and realize I was pushing myself too hard. I was doing this, I was doing that. So now this talk that I've written is all about basically finding my feet every time something's happened to me. My brother died, my father got sick, and the tax man came along, and this happened. I got a terrible divorce, and So it's the amount of times that I've had to start again is quite hectic. But when I talk about it now, I joke about it. How's that? So like I say, I tell people in my talk, My Life in 3D, I tell them that I had a breakdown, and they all go, really? And I say, well, it serves me right for buying an Italian car. So I make jokes out of it. So all the stuff that's happened to me, I've been able to look back and think, okay, I'm going to make this funny because that's the way I do. I move it forward. One of the things that really got me, my dad was about to die, and my mom had died previously, and my dad really missed my mom and basically died of a broken heart, but whatever, you know. So he was in hospital, and my brother said to him, how are you going to sleep tonight, Dad? And my father said like this. And I laughed. My brother looked at me like I was nuts. And then that evening or early the next morning, he passed away. And I actually used that. No, but you see, my brother was completely finished. But I said, Dad did that for us so we can carry on. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, well, Dad knew he was going to die, but he didn't want us to fret about it. He knew his time was up. So he went out with a laugh. So how's that? So that was a big life lesson for me. You're going to die. You might as well laugh in the meantime. So when stuff happens, you know, when stuff happens, you've got to look at it and think, oh my giddy aunt, let's try again. For instance, I had a heart attack earlier this year. I didn't even know that I had a heart attack. I was something wrong with my stomach. I went in, and apparently when I was in the emergency wards, I had this heart attack. So I rested, clearly. I had something done. They roto-rooted my veins and I'm fine again. But a lot of people, I think, would have said, okay, that's me, I'm finished. Not me. I said, oh, wow, this is a great way to start again and say, because now I can say, dude, there is life after a heart attack. Because back in the days, if you were a bully, if you had a heart attack, there was a very, very good chance that that was it. You were gone. But nowadays, with medical technology and things like that, you've got to make it happen. So, boom, boom. So I actually went and I wrote stuff about the heart attack. And so that's another start. But I'm doing well. So it happens, you know. I talk about me being divorced. I went through a terrible divorce. I mean, terrible, 20 years ago. And it was really horrific, but I make it funny. Because I say to people, I went through a terrible divorce. I got the kids. But I actually did.
But you are a naturally funny man. How can the average person find that funny in the face of that serious kind of adversity?
Look at children. Okay, if humor has to be taught, then explain to me why babies laugh. We naturally have the ability to think funny. Some of us choose to think there, and that happens because I suffer with it. I'm a depressive as well. I have a lot of stuff. And I tell people, take a break. Yes, this has happened. It's happened. There's nothing you can do about it. But would you rather remember the passing of your friend in sorrow and tears, or would you remember the passing of your friend or relative or loved one and the funny things that happened in your life together? And that's how I tell people how to think of the funnies. And I've got a little course that I do, and I show people. It's actually, my course is free. They go online, they can get it for free. It's called Talk Funny, free. So, and it just shows people how to create humor, because most people think that comedy is this massive thing, okay? But when it comes down to it, think about this. Comedy jokes are 1 second. 1 second. Because you talk, and bang. That's the joke. So life is like that. So yes, if the joke doesn't work, work on it. It'll work eventually. Make it happen. So you're not going to become a comedian overnight, but you can try and look at things differently. Like my dad, how about that? My dad wasn't a comic. Well, how are you going to sleep tonight, Dad? Like this. It was fun. So every time I think about my dad, I laugh. So I tell people, think of the funny stuff in and around, because even in the darkest moments of your life, there is something funny. There is.
Can
So
you
look,
find something funny about my expression, finding your feet after failure?
yes, absolutely, because I put my feet into a dirty swimming pool once and I couldn't find them, and I thought, oh my God, I've got no feet left. Then when I lifted them up, I found them. You see, boom, boom. So, but failure is a part of success, because how are you ever going to succeed if you don't know how to fail? And a lot of people are too scared to try something. Oh no, no, I might fail. My mother-in-law, I love my mother-in-law. She's fantastic. I mean, that sounds a bit weird. She's black, but my mother-in-law is very sort of like this. We'll go to a restaurant and I'll say to her, have this. And she will only have stuff that she knows that she's had before, okay, and enjoys. And I keep on saying to her, why don't you try this? Oh, no, I might not like it. And I say, if you don't like it, maybe we can give you another plate or something else. But if you don't try it, how are you ever going to grow? How are you ever going to grow? I mean, there's some things that, look, I mean, I've got 7 kids, so I've tried that a lot. So it's quite amazing. I've got 6 children of my own, and my nephew's become part of our clan. He was a great guy. And how's this? His father turned out to be not a nice person or whatever. He phoned me one day and said, Uncle Baz, I'm in trouble. And I said, what's wrong, my boy? My dad's this and that and that and that. And he said to me these words, can I start again and become a Hilton? I said, I'm not doing the nappies. So, so old Tom now is TJ. He's 28 years old, but he's been involved in our family circle, as a Hilton the last 8, 9 years. So how did he find his feet? He reached out and he said, I need some help. Please help me. And he's thriving. He's really, really, really doing well. He's a good kid, So how many people would have gone, oh, my dad's a poop ball. That's the world is. How many people have you heard say this is something else? You've made me drink. No. You don't force feed booze to somebody, but that's a big excuse. And that's people who refuse to try and find the solution. It was your fault that I drink. No, it's not. It's your fault. So failure is. I see every day. Failure is in front of us every day. I'll tell you what's a failure. When you get my age and you think you're going to make a fart, but it's actually a shot, that's a failure.
Oh my, that's a big failure.
And what you have to do is change your undies. You see, even that is funny. It's funny. Life is funny. So I'm very blessed.
Tell me about cousin.
Cousin, I can't remember names at all. If your name wasn't written on the backboard there, I would have forgotten it already. Okay. I promise you. So that's in my talk. I actually talk about that, about having ADHD, and I can't remember people's names. I can't. I just can't remember people's names. I'll have to be with them 20 times before I'll remember their names or what they do. I'll ask them over and over and over again. So instead of hiding away from that, I tell people, dude, I've got ADHD. I can't do it. So in that case, somebody would say, who's this guy? And from when I was young, about 8 years old, I would say he's my cousin, because that was the easiest thing for me. Do you know what I'm saying? So it just stuck with me. My cousin, because in my conversation, I would talk to people and say, hey, my cousin, and they'd say, oh, hello. So now everybody knows me as my cousin, which is great. So I turned a negative into a positive because, sometimes I find it amazing, but I'm very, very honored. I don't know if you see me work live, Liz.
I've never
Have you
seen you
seen me?
live.
Okay, what actually happens is they call me on, I walk on stage. I don't do the announcement. I just walk on stage and I give people a nod. I open a bottle of water. I have a sip, put it down. I go to the mic and I say, my cousins. And everybody laughs. I'm thinking, wow. But you know what an honor that is for me? That just the fact that I say my cousin, people laugh. I'm very blessed. But it happens, man, And if I think about the times that I've dropped the ball. I tried to open businesses and I realized that I'm a flippin' good comedian. I know that without being arrogant or whatever, but I'm a shitty businessman. So I leave that to other people now. I leave it to Sandy. So there we go. So, but you see, you have to accept your failures. You have to accept things that you can't control. I'm the worst businessman in the world. Did you know? Here's my wallet. See my wallet there? There's nothing in there. I actually, when I go somewhere, Sandy gives me an amount that I can use on my card. Because if I had 20,000, I would somehow find a reason to spend it. You understand? So that's a failure. But what did I do? I said, hold on, I can't do this. Can you help me, please? So that's another thing people should do. If you can't do something, I mean, a lot of people can't do things, but they try and pretend that they can instead of saying, can't do that, but I can get somebody to help me to do it. Yeah. So that's another reason why failing is not so bad, because as long as you accept it, I mean, I can't spell. I can't spell. So I don't try because nowadays we've got word and it does it for you, and auto cue and all that stuff and things like that. So you make a plan. So that's what it's about, isn't it? Falling down and coming back up again and falling down again and coming back up again. Just the way it is. I like to go on stage and I say, please, I'm so glad you're here because you've got no idea what this does for my Porsche. And then people come to me afterwards, they say, have you got a Porsche? I say, no, a little dinky one, but I've got a Porsche. So it doesn't really matter. So, and a lot of people, so many people are too scared to admit that they can't do something. They're too scared to admit that maybe they're scared to do something. But I think to find your feet, as you say, after failing, how are you going to find your feet unless you don't try and put them on the ground and start again?
I love the fact that you said it. People don't admit. Looking for people to come on this podcast. A lot of people are afraid to admit that they've made mistakes.
But I mean, who hasn't made a mistake? Do you know anybody?
I don't know.
No. I mean, everybody makes mistakes, but it's a part of life, isn't it, Lewis? Oh, your name's Lewis. I remember that now. So
Barry,
it's a part of life.
what
Walking without skin. That must be scary. What does
that's
that? What
very
does that mean?
scary.
Walking without skin. That serves you right for not putting suntan lotion on.
A good one. So, Barry, how did you get started in comedy?
Comedy found me. Okay. I was stuck in this little world. My father made me become a tradesman because he thought he was doing the best for me, and but he wasn't. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. So I used to do comedy when I was at work. I would always be chirping the foreman and this and that and that. And I do a story about how I passed my trade test through comedy. And when I was playing football, I did comedy. And every time I was doing comedy on the field, I used to tell those guys jokes. The response I got was just this overwhelming feeling of, wow, I've achieved it. But once again, as a thing there, it took me 3 years from when I decided to be a pro to actually get a gig. 3 years. Because I would go to a club. Back in the days, bands used to play for 3 months. You remember that? Say no, otherwise you're gonna give your age away. So
So,
bands, yeah, bands used to play for 3 months, and they would have this residency. Do you remember those? And I would go to these bands and say, listen, when you have your break, can I please go on? And they'd say, well, where have you worked? I said, well, I've never worked. And they said, well, no, you can't go on. So that's failing. And then I must have asked about 200 people, please help me. I asked every single comic in South Africa, everyone, and none of them would help me except for a guy called Johnny Noble. Do you remember Johnny Noble?
I
He was
do.
on Podcast. And he was the one that gave me a chance. But I didn't stop asking. And even if Johnny Noble had have dropped me, I would have carried on asking. You know the story about Colonel Sanders, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
1,003 times yeah, 1,000, and he was 67 at the time. 1,003 times he presented his chicken. Wow. Wow. And isn't it? Is it Edison? Edison, Thomas Edison? He tried to make a light bulb. It took him 1,001 times to get it right. So imagine if he'd have gone like that, we probably wouldn't be talking like this now. So
Still be
people,
in the dark
people,
ages.
people
So,
mustn't give up so easily.
so what is next for Barry Hilton?
Lunch. I've actually got a couple of gigs, little gigs. I've actually readjusted my whole way I'm working. Basically downsizing, not because I have to, it's because I want to. I'm working at smaller venues that are more intimate, that are closer to my house, that are whatever. I'm overdoing the 4,000, 3,000 seats. I'm over that. So what's next for me is a multitude of small little gigs. I mean, I did a gig 2 weeks ago for somebody's 80th birthday in their house, and they invited 20 of their closest friends. And what a joy! I didn't even have a microphone. It was fantastic because there was 80 years old right down to like 15. It was a family. And it's a great challenge that is, and I work it and I make a plan. And I was home that afternoon. It was lekker. So what's next for me is, and then of course I'm doing my talk, and I must admit I'm having a hard time selling it because people are saying, "Why do you want to do an inspirational talk? You're such a good comedian." And I say, "Well, because I actually like to be able to kick the ball with left foot and right foot. So if you don't try, you'll never do it." So once again, I've been failing at selling my talk. And just before I spoke to you, I was talking to the people who are professional speakers, and I was saying to them, what am I doing wrong? Because I'm not scared to ask. And they said, well, why don't you try this? And so, okay, cool. Yeah. So I would like to go onto the talking circuit more, but I don't think I'll ever stop being a comic because I can't help thinking that way. This is true. I was on stage the other day and some smart ass said to me, are you woke? And before they did anything, I said, since 7 o'clock this morning. And they laughed. So, boom, boom. So that's in my nature to make funny. So why should I ever stop that?
So your inspirational talks will obviously still include humor.
Oh yeah, my talk is extremely funny, but it's deadly serious. It's about having dyslexia. It's about having ADHD. It's about the serious problem that we have with depression and how many people end up killing themselves. Do you know? It's like serious. And my talk is about bullies. And now my dad, first of all, handled bullies, and I handled it the same way. My talk is about failure in your marriage, your health, X, Y, and Z. But my talk, everything that I talk about that's bad, I always come back with the funny. And then I say to people at the end of my talk, how is this going to help your company? Well, humor is a fabulous healer. Humor is a communication superpower. Humor gets people to concentrate on what you are saying. I'm sure you've watched a few guys that are doing talks and you want to slit your own wrists. They are so boring. And then you get some guys like Gavin Sharples. He's a friend of mine, and I look up to him as a wonderful guy. He talks serious stuff, but it's funny. It's funny. And the people listen to him because why? He's funny. He's telling a serious message with a funny ending. What is your favorite type of movies? I'll tell you what, if you like it or not, you like to laugh. That's why comedies are the most popular genre, because people want to laugh and get away from the stuff.
Well, you've actually given us so many tips and techniques for overcoming failure. So I'm just going to see if I can summarize what you've given us. One is to take on a new angle, to adapt and take on a new perspective and start again. I think that's so important. You know, you say keep on trying, don't give up, keep on trying, start again, but make it fun at the same time.
Yeah, you have a choice. You have a choice. Make it fun. It's cool, you know. It's whatever it is. Don't get me wrong. I get angry and upset because I'm a human being, but I always seem to end up laughing at the pooples that try and make me do stupid things. I'll go away. So
Okay. And then you also spoke about reaching out, ask for help, but at the same time,
absolutely,
take responsibility for what you've done.
without a doubt, you know, a lot of people, like we discussed now, are too scared to say, "I'm in trouble. Help me, please." So I think people out there, no matter what you're struggling with, somebody will listen to you. And you should reach out to that person and say, listen, what am I doing wrong here? Like I told you, I was asking this woman this morning who does talks, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I sell my thing? Now, you know how many people would have given up on that? Okay, I can't do it there. But I'm not going to give up because that's what it's about. Failure is only an open door to the next success.
Absolutely. And then you spoke about turning your negatives into positives and looking
Yes,
for innovative ways of doing it. And your
absolutely.
your cousin way is one
Yeah.
way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I like to, there is a way around on anything, negatives, positive. Like I say, I went through a horrific divorce. That's a negative. But I say, I got the kids. That's a positive because I did get the kids, but I made a joke out of it because it was opposite. So, no, lots of things, you know. I used to do a joke about having standard 8. And the guy was saying to me, you've only got standard V11. And I would say to him, and I remember saying to him, no, actually, it's standard 5 3 times. Because that's how my brain operates. And I try and coach people to think that way, man. Have a laugh. I know it's tough. It's very tough. But
And then you spoke about admit your failure and keep going, don't give up.
absolutely. This is my third marriage. So that'll tell you.
Uh, so that was a lot. Is there any other last thought, last tip or technique you can give people?
I actually like, well, you just said it. Don't give up. Don't give up. If the thing I tell my boy, he's a very good football player, my youngster, and I tell him all the time, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So the message there is, if you work hard, you're 80% of the way there. If you have talent, you're almost all the way there. But even if you've got talent, but you don't work, you know it. And vice versa. If you work hard, you will assume talent, you will get it because you work hard to it. So don't ever give up. Ever.
Now keep going and keep improving, keep looking for the new learning that comes with it.
Absolutely. I mean, taxi drivers, they've never given up on a red traffic light. They just go through it.
Yeah, that's when we want them to give up.
They want to give up. Yeah. I saw a picture of a traffic light a taxi smashed into a traffic light the other day. And the person who wrote it was so funny. He says, this is a very, very unusual thing that a taxi actually stopped at a traffic light. So it was, yeah, that's the way it is. Isn't it funny? We have this way of finding this dark humor. It happens. We just do it. So don't give up. Don't ever give up. I'll never give up. I'll never give up. It's just in my DNA or whatever. But sometimes, to be the best, you've got to take a rest. Sometimes when I have an idea and I'm working on it, and it's just not working properly, I take a step back and I put that into my side pocket and then wait. And then all of a sudden, a month later, a year later, it goes ding. Oh, hold on. Yeah, I never thought about that. So, but if you give up, then what's the use of just doing anything?
And that goes back to how you started by saying to be the best, you must take a rest.
Take a rest. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Walk away, give it a break, clear
And
the
come
mind.
back in a vengeance. Yeah.
Well, it's been fascinating listening to all your stories. How
I
can
love
people
it.
reach you, Barry?
Pardon?
How can people reach you if they want to hire you for inspirational talk or for a
Yes.
connect?
barryhilton.co.za. You can look at that. Or they can contact Sandy direct, if I can give you her number. Will you put it up on the post?
Yeah, you can give it to me and I'll repeat it now, but I'll put it in the link below.
Okay, it's 082 7311 311.
Okay, so that is Sandy, who is your who does all the admin and management for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love her to pieces. I'm very fortunate to have her. Maybe she's fortunate to have me too. I don't know, but whatever.
I hope so. I hope it's a
Yes,
mutual
fantastic.
connection.
Yes.
So
Thank you very much.
any last words of advice in any form for our viewers?
We live in tough times. We know that. Okay. But that old saying, when the tough gets going, when the times get going tough, the tough get going. It's basically the same. Bullshit's going to happen to us, no matter if we like it or not, even in the best of times. Be prepared for it. Just know that it's going to happen, and just always know that there's a way out. Because if you take a rest, you'll end up being the best.
Lovely, lovely way to end our chat.
Thank
Barry,
you
thank
so
you
much.
so much for being here today, and I wish you well on your speaking journey.
Yes, it'll be great. I appreciate it.
Okay. Everybody, please do contact Barry and please do subscribe to my channel, Walking Without Skin, and do please watch other videos. There's many videos there with lots of tips on overcoming failures, on overcoming adversity and other challenges. So please do join us, do subscribe and find your own feet.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
There you go. Well.